Hello today and welcome to my first video of Jonathan's Coaster Reviews. Today I will be reviewing the top 10 coasters at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. This is not my home park, but it is one of my favorites, so I still want to do this one. And this one actually had an easier list for me to come up with, so without further ado, let's get to it. Oh, and by the way, actually, sorry. If your opinion is much different than mine, then don't hate on me in the comments. Now, this time, without further ado, let's get to it. So number 10 is Gemini, and I found this roller coaster to be pretty good. It was overall okay. It felt like a wooden coaster because aerodynamics made those steel tracks, and the bumpiness felt like a bumpiness of a wooden coaster. But I like that kind of bumpy. The airtime's okay, the drop is okay. It's a fun ride, but it's not one of the best. It's a top 10 because it's kind of forceless. It is really not great. Well, not the best. So number 9 is Blue Streak, and I found this to be a very good wooden coaster. This airtime is amazing. If you're in the front row, it is not rough. I've heard some people say that they sat in the back and it was rough, but I only sat in the front, and I found it to be good. That airtime was not the most powerful, but it was fun. And it felt like a fast pace, and it was overall fun. Number 8 is Valraven, and you might be surprised that I'm putting this so low. Well, here's the thing. This ride was kind of forceless for me. It wasn't that forceful. The drop is pretty good. I was sitting in the back row. My stomach went up to my throat a little bit, which was pretty neat, but the inversions, I didn't feel it. And it was kind of forceless. If I would have closed my eyes on this ride, which I did, I didn't even feel like I was in the ride. It was, overall it was for a dive coaster. Number 7 is Wicked Twister, and yes, you might be surprised that I'm putting this over Valraven, but actually, this was fun. When you're sitting in the front row, you launch, and then you go all the way up when you reach the top of the twisted spike. Then you fall back down. You feel like you're falling out of the sky. And being in the front facing down on the reverse twisted tower is also very fun too. The only downside with this ride is that it could get a little rattly and vibrates throughout the ride, but overall, yeah, it was more fun than I was expecting it to be. Number 6 is Gatekeeper. This was fun. First time I rode it, I sat in the outside seat. It was a little rattly, a little uncomfortable. But then I sat in the inside seat, and that was actually very good. And the back is good. First was front row outside seat, then the second time was back row inside seat, which was fun. Back row inside seat was intense, it was forceful, and it was overall just a really good ride. Number 5 is Millennium Force, and you might be surprised. Why the heck am I putting this at number 5? A normal person, if they see the park and all the roller coasters in the park, they would guess this is the best. Some people, I know, it's your favorite ride in the park, and I respect that. But with me, it really didn't really do it that much for me, for my expectations. First of all, it is kind of forceless. It is not that intense. The floater airtime is fun. That one ejector airtime is pretty good, and overall, it's a good ride. I would have ranked this higher if it didn't have that rattle. That rattle is very uncomfortable. I coughed several times on the ride because it was going up to my throat, and that really takes away from the ride experience. The front doesn't have that much of a rattle, but the problem with the front is the wind is a little uncomfortable. Number 4 is Raptor. This is really good B&M invert. The only other 2 B&M inverts I've been on is Batman the Ride and Great Adventure and Great Bear at Hershey Park. This was my favorite. Yes, it was a little rattly. There was a little bit of head banging, but I kept my head forward and it was actually good. First time I rode it in the front row, actually, my feet kind of hurt, especially on that helix. But when you sit on the back row in this ride, it is amazing. It is super intense. Those inversions are super fun, and that helix in the end, when you're sitting in the back, is just amazing. I grayed out on that one. Overall, yes, it's amazing. Number 3, Top Thrill Dragster and the Intamin Accelerator Coaster. Yeah. Well, no, Intamin Accelerator or hydraulic? Yeah, actually, no, I think it's hydraulically launched. Sorry about that. But yeah, this ride, it's intense. I sat in the front. That wind was actually very good. And it's forceful, not in a rattly way. I went at King Ka and it was very rattly. It wasn't forceful at all. But yeah, this is good. Oh, so yeah, number 2, Steel Vengeance. Well, you guys might be surprised. Why is this at number 2? This is the best ride ever. This is the best thing ever to exist. And it is fun. It is great. Their airtime is amazing, and it is one of my favorite rides I've ever been on. But here's the thing. So many people are saying it's the best thing ever, it's legendary, the feeling of being on it is extremely legendary. But when I went on, I was a little let down, because when I went on, I saw all the good things people were talking about it. I had extremely, extremely high expectations. But when I came off it, I was a little tiny bit let down, but overall it was still amazing. And actually, when I got off this was before I did the ride that was after this, and I said it was the best coaster I've ridden, but not for long, until I did this. And by the way, Steel Vengeance is a must-do if you go to Cedar Point. It is one of the best. And I loved it when I came off of it. It was my favorite ride, but not for long. Until I went on this. Maverick. Now, I can't explain how amazing this roller coaster is. This is currently the best coaster I have ever been on. If somebody asked me what's your favorite element on Maverick, I would say every single one of them. First of all, you start on that lift hill. That's actually the least part of the ride. But then that drop, if you're sitting in the back, you are getting flung over it, and your stomach goes up to your throat, and it is like no other feeling. Then those turns, like Intimidator 305, are super intense. They are super fun. Then that burst of ejector airtime hill, that is so powerful too. It was just amazing. Then the launch was also good. I got glued to my seat. The turn over the water was fun. And actually, those twists in the end, were twisting to the sides, were super forceful too. And that last ejector airtime hill was very good too. Not as good as the first one, but it was amazing. Overall, yeah. Best coaster ever to exist, in my opinion. So yeah, that concludes the video. Feel free to disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you want to say your opinion. I do want to hear it, but just don't hate. Yeah, just say it in the comments. Oh, and by the way, you might have been surprised why certain rides didn't make the list. I know Iron Dragon didn't make the list. Corkscrew didn't make the list. Yeah, because it sucks. And probably the biggest upset is that Magnum XL 200 and Rougarou didn't make the list. Well, they didn't make the list for a reason. Rougarou was rough. There was a lot of headbanging, and it was a little unbearable for me. Magnum was even worse. That was extremely unbearable. First of all, it is really shaky. And the last airtime hills, your thighs are getting sore, but not in a good way, in a bad way. It hurts. The lap bars don't touch you that much, they're small, but on the ejector airtime hill, you fly up until the bars and they hurt. So yeah, stay tuned for another video from Jonathan's Coaster Reviews.